styles, aren't they? They're all leadership styles. Akbar, from the history of the country, from the history of the continent, what kind of leader do you think he was? What kind of leader was he? He was a visionary leader. But which leadership style do you fit him in? Come on. Was he democratic now? Can we not talk about Hrithik Roshan? Can we talk about the real Akbar?
Imports from a lot of different sources.
Right.
Was able to divide his enemies because of that.
Right.
Because he befriended part.
Right. And he was what? Democratically elected leader of the subcontinent? He was a despot. Thank you. He was a despot. But he used his intelligence and he got a lot of information together from the people around him, and he used that information and he actually managed to knit together a society which was as diverse as it was at that time. Not only about the racial minorities and various ethnic groups getting together, but the biggest divide that mankind has, the religion. And yet he made them all sit together and work together, and he actually is, the history says that he was someone who actually respected the various people. So that is an amazing thing. I don't know where this has come from. Okay, now coming from this, what we are going to look at is your own personal situation. Regardless of which personality traits people sitting in this group have, and how many shades of those personalities or those leadership traits we have, we are in a business, aren't we? And your business is? That's the question. Your business is? Schools. It's an industry. Education is an industry. And your business is running those schools as efficiently, as capably, as you possibly can. Right? Now, does that make you school leaders? Does that make you school leaders? Yes? No?
By default.
By definition.
By default.
By default you are school leader. Right. What happens when greatness is thrust upon you? When greatness is thrust upon you, you wear that mantle and you rise to the status that you've been given. So even though by choice you did not want to be the school leader, but by default you are the school leaders. As school leaders, I have to ask you a question. What do you see your role as? आपका क्या काम है? What do you do? Or how many dimensions are you going to categorize that work? So, from the top of your head, what are the categories of the work that you do as school leaders? G? Alright, you are an administrator, which means, what do you do as an administrator?
The policies and
with the different administrative issues.
Alright, okay. Very quickly, each table, sit together and write the broad categories that you assume as the school leaders, and what functions do you do under that category. If you say one of the categories is administration, what do you actually do in that category? You come in the morning and you check everyone is in the school. What do you do? Very quickly, you might have two categories, you might have a single category, you might have 3 or 4 categories. Very quickly, divide them up as a group together. Just give me those categories and tell me what do you do in those categories. And I am quite amazed at this little thing that I am once again going to reiterate, that a good leader is a person who empowers others, who brings out the best in others, who recognizes what this person is capable of, what that person is capable of, what that person is capable of, and gives the opportunities for that to develop and grow and get somewhere. That's the good leader. My idea of the good leader is a very Asian idea. It is you lead from behind. You don't lead from the front. It is that idea that white horse and the sword drawn and you are charging in front of everyone. That's not the leader. The leader is the person who says, all right, fine, let's go. Let's go. And you are pushing others and you are behind them. So what Peter Senge, who's this remarkable person who's done a lot of work about organizational learning, and he defines us as a community of learning. Teachers, we are a community of learning because we are a professional community. So be a professional community, and to survive, please understand, we can only survive if we are amenable to change, if we are ready to change. Because the market changes, people change, demands change. Let me give you a practical example. About 10 years from now, 10 years back, what was the buzzword in this country? IT. Technology, technology, technology. There were technology colleges popping up on the sidewalks of the city. What has happened today? We have a market that is glutted with whatever IT colleges, the good, the bad, the ugly. But they are graduates from these IT colleges. Do they have jobs? No. What is the market asking for? Another set of skills that these people do not possess. Earlier than that, about 15 years back, what was the very thing that everyone ought to have done in their lives, so they should just die? MBA. Everyone had to be an MBA to really be worthy of what they were saying. And I have tremendous respect for MBAs. And please, I want to be one myself also. The fact of the matter is that today, the market is once again glutted and there is no place for these people. So, the market keeps changing, the market's demands keep changing, and because the job market after what a child does in 16 years has changed, the mother who is going to walk her son to your school today has changed also. Her demands of you are now dictated by what that 16 years की education के बाद the person who has passed is looking for. That is what she wants from you today. So we keep on talking about the school of tomorrow, the school of tomorrow. What is the school of tomorrow? The school of tomorrow is you, the leaders, anticipating today what will be required from the students. Then after they've completed 16 years of formal education in Pakistan, they've gone through the professional colleges, they are emerging. What is the job market then? What are the demands of the society then? Futuristics is a science, I believe. It is being taught as a subject. You understand what is the demand for the future. So what Peter Senge talks about in learning organizations is that organizations where people continually expand their capacity to create the results they truly desire, where new and expansive patterns of thinking are nurtured, where collective aspiration is set free, and where people are continually learning to see the whole together. He does not talk about a leader on a white horse charging in front of the whole. It's instrumental in empowering that level of office. That is what Peter Senge is talking about. Now, question rises. Is your organization a learning organization? And that question is as much for you as it is for me. I work for the Beacon House. I believe, and I do not need to plug Beacon House to you because you're all my colleagues from the sister school. I believe we are the learning organization. When I say that, ask me on a scale of 1 to 10. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm not going to put myself even on an 8. I'll put myself somewhere between 3 and 4 perhaps as an organization, and I might be a very harsh judge. But I believe that when you start thinking of something, it starts because the first piece of knowledge is the awareness itself. Do we want to be a learning organization? Am I becoming a learning organization? I am the teacher trainer in my department. And you know what I'm continuously thinking of between you, me, the four walls, and this laptop that is riddled with virus? I'm thinking of who's the next generation of teacher trainers. What happens when I happily retire and start growing roses, who's going to take over this? So my job is to empower people, build a team, to take that team forward and make them one day realize that, oh my God, Noreen Grover is not around. Yeah, when did she leave us? That kind of thing. Now, are you a learning organization? और अब मैंने बहुत बोला है, अब मैं थक गई हूँ, आप काम कीजिएगा. अपनी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन को खुद रेट कीजिए, बहुत छोटा है, बहुत छोटा है. Just take 5 minutes. अपनी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन को रेट कीजिए. See, are you a learning organization? और जो नहीं अप्लाई करता, please do not break your heart over that. Ignore it. But let's see if your organization is learning. Does it qualify as a learning organization? This is number 1? Okay. You mean you need to leave early? You move on from that. This is something very important, and I love absolutely sharing it with you. The Japanese have a term called kaizen. And what does this term tell them? It means continual improvement. It is a never-ending quest to do better, and you do better by changing. Standing still allows your competitors to go ahead, and I'm sure none of the businessmen would ever do that. Right? Sekaji?
Ma'am, can I add to that?
Please do.
You see, in terms of all the values that we talked about,
Gigi.
the questionnaire that you just given us,
Gigi.
a lot of this has to do with the kind of personal qualities that people may have developed in the community that they live in.
Okay.
Now, one example of that is that Japanese schools, for example, Japan and India,
Gigi.
they, on a weekly basis, do several things like, for example, taking their kids out, and these are 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds, to public places, and they tell them to go and clean that place. And they do that. So kids grow up.
Right. अभी रुकिए, आपको मैं एक बात कहना चाहती हूँ. In 1965, there was a war between our country and our neighboring country, and I believe that people did tremendous things. I do not.